Hey folks, before I jump into the video, I want to give a really quick announcement about something that I never got a chance to talk about during this video itself. A lot of people have been asking me if I plan on streaming, and I'm happy to say that I will be doing my first stream here on YouTube on Friday the 13th, ooh, spooky, at 7 PM EST. This stream is going to be another Alliance speedrun, but the major difference is that I've asked you all to pick what race and class combination I play. So in the comments in my last video, people have offered up a lot of great suggestions, and I've put them together in a poll containing some of the most requested races and classes in the comments section. And you can find a link to that in the video description or in my leveling guide Google Doc, which is also linked in the video description. Additionally, I'll be streaming the following day, Saturday the 14th, also at 7 PM EST. And this stream is going to be the Demon Hunter 8 to 50 run that I've been talking about for a while now, but it's going to be on Horde. That said, I hope you enjoy the upcoming video, and it would be awesome to have you tune into the stream. Hey folks, so I mentioned in a previous video that I tried leveling a warrior, as you can see here. And I got it to 28, and I lost all the footage. I won't go into that. I mean, if you care, you can watch my latest Alliance video where I talk in more detail about how, OBS kind of screwed me over. So I'm not going to be able to do a full warrior speedrun. I mean, theoretically I could, but there's really only so much time that I have, and there's a lot of things that people have been requesting, and at this point I don't think I'm going to have time to do an entire extra warrior speedrun. It's just, I mean, it took me 4 hours to get to this point. Obviously you might be like, wait, 4 hours? But you're only 28? Isn't your world record around there? Yeah, but I was taking it slow. So I'm trying to do a bit more of like casual speedruns. As you can see in my latest Alliance video, that thing took me about 7 hours. And it was even less optimized than this one. So, for Horde, I had, as you can see here, basically all the same stuff. I have a lot of decent consumables, so gun shoes, XA1000 surface skimmers because it's on Horde. I've already said I'm not going to be doing any world record attempts, but I still have all of these left over from my old speedruns, so might as well use them. And of course I have my full enchanted plate set. That I can just trade between my characters, nothing special. Now, while I'm not going to be doing a full warrior speedrun, and I don't really think it would be interesting to watch me do half a warrior speedrun, I figure we can kill two birds with one stone here. So a lot of people have been asking for the warrior thing, but another thing a lot of people have been asking for is something covering dungeon leveling. And I know a lot of people like dungeon leveling. I have not, unfortunately, had a ton of time to test it. I've basically tested a few dungeons in Burning Crusade, and in my testing, they actually ended up being pretty efficient, but I did them with a full 5-man group, and it's just not something that's practical for everybody, having 4 other people to level with who all are doing ridiculously high damage and going at a super fast pace. So I thought I'd do something different here. I would do a solo queue as a tank, obviously, so I'll have roughly, hopefully, instant queues for different types of dungeons for different forms of content. So I guess now that I've set up the premise and talked through the basics, let's hop into it, and hopefully the queue's instant. And I'm going to do basically classic dungeons. Hopefully it won't take too long, and I can showcase basically some of the routes that I use for some of these dungeons, because I have done a lot of them over the past few years, and I know a few decent shortcuts. But on top of that, I want to show how efficient they are. So one thing I want to make very clear that I have briefly tested and had other people confirm for me, you do not want to do anything after Mop. So Classic, BC, Wrath, and Mop are the only 4 expansions that you should level in. And I guess by Classic, I'm including Cata in that. And the reason is this, quests. So I don't have my Leatrix Plus enabled, but I'll do that in a second. Leatrix Plus, automate quests. And it's not letting me pick it up. Hello, Blizzard. Hello. Okay, there we go. Oh, this guy's going right ahead. Gung-ho. So, Dire Maul, relatively straightforward dungeon. There's actually not too much I can show here. And this one, I will say, is probably going to end up being inefficient. So let me actually start my timer there. Obviously, I don't have anything super crazy on the timer. It's just literally the timer itself without any splits or whatnot. Because I'm just trying to record how long it takes. Also, I can move this back here. But yeah, so the primary reason that you want to do only Classic or Kata, BC, Wrath, and Mop dungeons is because of those quests. Because generally speaking, dungeons are not going to be efficient. You're honestly going to take more time doing the dungeon itself than if you had just done quests in order to get the experience. However, if you are effectively doing quests while doing a dungeon, and it's a fast dungeon, like I managed to do Slave Pens in 11 minutes, Blood Furnace in 7 minutes, Hellfire Ramparts in 8 minutes, and Akanai Crypts in 3 minutes. Or not 3 minutes, 7 minutes as well. But I think Akanai Crypts was the fastest because I added some time to go hand in a quest that I don't think is worth it, but, you know, I won't go into that. All you need to know is BC dungeons, from my testing, are extremely fast. They are definitely well worth the time spent, and I recommend doing them. Now, what I also want to test is these, because they have a decent amount of quests, and I don't think that Dire Maul is going to take terribly long, but who knows. God, the water from this, like, hurts my eyes. It's so bright. Ah. I don't remember it being this bright. Oh, no. See, that's the inherent risk of doing dungeons with pugs. Somebody might just kind of wander their way into pulling the side. Like, is it a big deal that this got pulled? No. But it just wastes a lot of time. So by now, I've probably edited most of this dungeon out, because really, Dire Maul is just not very interesting. I've pretty much just been going through this thing on autopilot. It's been, as you can see here, almost 15 minutes, and just, we're still only maybe like 2/3 the way through the dungeon. Most Dire Maul dungeons are not efficient. They just take forever, and even though I'm going to get some decent quest experience here, it's just, ugh, it's not worth it. You know, for example, by comparison, and I would say the average group could complete it in similar times that I did, I managed to do, like, Blood Furnace in 7 minutes and Akanai Crypts in 7 minutes, and both of them gave me, like, 2.5 levels. So that's 2.5 levels in less than 10 minutes, which, that's like WoD intro levels of experience. So a lot of people have asked me whether or not it's worth actually doing dungeons, like in their, I guess, questing experience, like leaving them in. And in some cases, yes. I would say if you do specific dungeons like Blood Furnace and Akanai Crypts, or even like I have Hellfire Ramparts and Slave Pens on here as 2 other dungeons that were very efficient, then yeah, it can work. I don't do it for the purposes of a speedrun. It is technically not banned. If you look at the official speedrun.com, like, rule set, I suppose, they say that you can do random dungeon... Oh, crap. They say you can do random dungeon finder, and that's not banned. But it's one of those things where I like to minimize the amount of RNG that occurs in the speedrun. So rares and chests are already a lot of RNG that you just can't really control. Like, that's just... it exists, right? Like, unless you specifically banned any rares or chests, which at that point I just don't really think it's interesting, then you already have so much that's just uncontrollable. And having to introduce the fact that there's random players who, like, depending on how fast they are, depending on how good they are, depending on whether they facepull mobs, like, all of those factors can completely change how long a dungeon takes. So something that may be extremely fast for one person, if another person gets a group of brand new players, well, then it's just not going to be as fast, and there's just nothing you can do about that. So for this section, you can thread the needle, but you have to be fast. And the issue is, if your group is slow, well, then you're fucked. So I can run here, and now I'm safe. But if they lag behind, they might pull it. And let's go. Dun 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 dun. Oh, somebody face pulled. And they pulled more. Okay. Yeah, and that's the inherent problem. See, if you notice, I actually made it in time. But I will say, I did cut it close, and I had a speed pot. But, you know, if you're doing this in a 5-stack, everybody will have speed mods. Everybody will have something that enables them to quickly get across that gap. And now, you know, just kind of counts the amount of time. I mean, I guess depending on if I edit this out or not, just look at the timer on when I started this poll and when I ended it. And just imagine if you didn't have to do this at all. Because, for the record, mob kill experience is really bad. Look at my bar. That's with rested experience. That's how much it is. Very, very little. I got maybe half of rested experience bar from that pack right there. Which, I mean, is it terrible? But it's just not a lot. You know, there's way better sources of experience. For the amount of time that took. I mean, that was probably, what, like 30 seconds? So, 30 seconds for effectively a quarter of a bar, because normally, you know, I don't do tests with rested XP. You know, do the math on that, on how much of a level that would be per 10 minutes, and it's just extremely inefficient. Quests are just 100% the way to go. And the other thing that dungeons are somewhat good at is the end of, like, completion experience bonus. So 23k? 23k is, like, a good chunk of a level. That's enough to almost get you there. Also, a little trick you could do for Dire Maul. A lot of people don't know this. Some people know this now that Classic's been out. And then you do this. Come on. Don't be afraid. One more. What you waiting for, Mr. Shaman? There you go. And you're at the last boss. No trash needed. And none of it pulls. So I know I've had some people in the past say that, like, you can't do this because all of the trash in the room pulls. It doesn't. You can see here. If you mess up and you have something following you and then it patrols all the way down and, like, attacks you, then, yeah, you're fucked. Also, it is worth noting that on Classic, I've tried this before. It works, but the range at which Alzin pulls mobs to him is much higher. So on retail, he won't pull anything else. But if you keep him here on Classic... if you keep him here on Classic, what he'll do is he'll basically do like an AoE shout that drags all of these guys into combat with him. But what you can do in Classic is hide him behind that pillar, because his AoE shout, for some reason, is affected by line of sight. Or it's gonna do it anyway, and I'm just dumb, and apparently it's a retail thing too, and oh fuck, I misremembered. I misremembered. Oh no, this is bad. Oh no, this is bad. This is very bad. This is very bad. This is very bad. Oh no, 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 no. Forgive me for my arrogance. Oh, I'm so dead. Do we have a B-reser? They do, okay. Do shot. Oh no, this is embarrassing. Oh no. Oh no. What have I done? Yeah, so imagine if that happened in a speedrun. That would suck. Crap. Well then. Technically that was my fault. I'm obviously not going to blame anybody. I'm just going to pretend like the game just fucked up and... Wow, who could have seen that coming? It's not like I was in the middle of talking about how it does exactly that on Classic, but how it doesn't do it on Retail. And then the game's just like, wait, really? You think that? Alright. Crap. Oh, fuck my life. But anyways, so I guess now I can show off the strat of you LOS him, and it doesn't do that. Only on Classic, right? In case it's not obvious, this has not been an efficient use of my time. Oh, God. Oh, no, why did you... See, and, you know, this is just one domino falls, and then, next thing you know, you have shamans just, you know, face planting into trees, and it's just the whole thing. Alright, so, trick to Alzin the Wild Shaper. You LOS him. Right here. This is the strats. Yep, as you can notice, none of these plants have been pulled. This was around the time of the fight last time where they got pulled. So, he basically does, like, it's not even a cast, it's just a passive shout for nearby mobs. Even if you have him out here, out in the open, it'll still reach. It's just a weird LOS bug. I do not know why. Also, never forget, when you go here, pick up your Felvine Shard, do this, and then all of your quests are done. And everybody's running up here, but you don't need to. What you can do is teleport out of dungeon. This is a trick that applies for pretty much every single dungeon in the game, unless the quest turn is at the end. So you teleport out, and then teleport back in. And voila! I am right back at the start. And I can hand in all of my quests, and I'm good to go. Now, I did get about... So, when you consider the fact that I had full rested experience, I mean, you can see here, there's still a lot left over. And I already finished the dungeon, handed in all the quests. I still actually only got level and a half in 25 minutes. That's just really, really bad. So I can do here, close splits, and that's reset. Now, one thing I'm going to talk about while I run over here to unlock flying is I have a lot of potential dungeons in Classic. And I ended up getting one of the, I guess, middle ones, Dire Maul. Now, Dire Maul is quite slow. And the unfortunate thing is, I was going to say, you know, you might want to try to get it out of the way or, like, avoid it. Here's the issue. Because it's 15, you're probably going to get it the moment you ding 15, which is, I guess, a problem. So all of these dungeons, though, Dead Mines, Ragefire Chasm, maybe not Ragefire Chasm specifically, but like Shadowfang Keep, Wailing Caverns, that's another long one. Black Fathom Deeps, pretty long one. Nomergon, super long. Maradon, most of these are, like, I think one of the Maradon wings is really fast, another is, like, medium length, and then one is just really long. Earthsong Falls. It's just not worth it. So, some of these might be good. Razorfen Crawl, Scarlet Halls, Scarlet Monastery. I remember those being pretty good. Stormwind Stockade is really efficient. Even if you get down here, there's a few. Like, I know Zul'Farrak, I would show Zul'Farrak. There's a lot of really cool skips that I've done in Zul'Farrak, but it's just one of those where I just don't really feel like doing it right now, and in general, it's not a very efficient dungeon. So, that's a problem that you're going to run into doing Classic dungeons. It's very hit or miss. It's very much like, this dungeon might be really, really good, but you might also get a dungeon that is like Dire Maul, that is a huge time loss. So, you know, there's no consistency. And you might say, oh, well, just queue for specific dungeons. Well, you can't. Because here's the thing. Random Classic bonus, 25k or here, 24k experience. That's a lot. That's roughly, no, not roughly, that's over half a level. That's good. That is really good. So getting over half a level flat just for doing something you're already doing, that makes it not worth doing specific dungeon queues. And that's why I would say this is maybe not efficient. Now, the only thing I would consider is possibly doing like one classic dungeon at level 10. Because even then, I don't know. Because, you know, looking at this, you know, Dead Mines is fast. Ragefire Chasm, I guess, is kind of fast. But then there's just Maradons in here. And, ugh. If you roll Maradon, your run is fucked from the start. I guess if you really want to high roll like a speed run, you theoretically could just go until you get like one of those really fast ones, but odds are not in your favor. So let's change gears here a bit. I've already discussed in depth about how most Outland dungeons are good, so I'm just going to quickly show this. So I have here a lot of different dungeons. These ones are good. These 4. Yeah, no, these 5, I guess. Mana Tombs, I'm not too sure on. I believe Sethek Halls is also really, really efficient. And then, Shadow Labyrinth I don't like. Shattered Halls takes forever. Yeah, so here you can see, for BC dungeons. Fast, 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 questionably fast. I don't remember Mana Tombs too well. Fast, slow, slow, and then, spoiler alert, slow. Everything after that is slow. There are maybe one or two of these dungeons are kind of okay, but if you remember anything about, like, Mechanar, Botanica, God, Botanica, I hate Botanica, opening of the Dark Portal, God forbid, and, like, the Arcatraz is actually the worst BC dungeon, hands down. That's when it starts to get really bad. So early on, I recommend doing maybe some Burning Crusade dungeons, and then definitely stop by the time you hit level 20. Because if you start getting those in your queue, it's really going to fuck you up. So another thing now that I want to test is Wrath dungeons. So Wrath dungeons, I know, are a bit more, on average, better than Burning Crusade dungeons. So let's see. Nexus, Utgard, Ankahet, Asdrul, these are all relatively fast. Draktherin, I know Utgard can take a bit longer, but it has a lot of quests too. Draktherin, hit or miss. Oh, Violet Holds. Oh no. Gundrak, I remember being not too slow. Halls of Lightning, not the worst. Halls of Stone. Halls of Stone is kind of slow. Ugh. Yeah, see, this is the problem that I'm looking at right now. As I look at these dungeons, the further you get in, the dungeons just get longer and longer. I would say maybe you could even argue... No, you wouldn't want to start with Wrath, because Nexus and Utgard just are not better than Sleeve Pen's Blood Furnace and Hellfire. Maybe... Nexus has a lot of quests, but it does take quite a while. It's really hard to say. It's also worth noting that these give all the exact same amount of experience, so there's no real difference. Now, you might be wondering, well, what about Cataclysm Dungeons? Some of them are fast, and I can't show them right now because I'm not level 35. But let's see. Let's try Mop Dungeons. So here's the thing about Mop Dungeons. This one I do remember. If you look at Mop Dungeons, they're relatively standard. Temple of the Jade Serpent, relatively short. Stormstout, very short. Mogushan, Shadowpan, Gate of the Setting Sun. These are all dungeons that are roughly the same speed. Even like Siege of Nizhao Temple, I know a lot of people don't like that. Siege of Nizhao Temple is actually not too bad. There are quite a lot of like ways that you can speed it up, and it ends up being roughly the same speed as the rest. So I might actually say, like, you do BC dungeons up until 20, and then you shift gears and do Mop Dungeons. And, let's give this a shot. Let's see how fast this ends up being. Alright, so Gate of the Setting Sun is actually a pretty good one. I'll start the timer here. Relatively easy to do, not too long. You get decent experience. So you can do this whole big thing. Well, you should do this whole big thing. One large pull. Now, a lot of the strats I'm doing, obviously, are because I'm tanking it. It's not always feasible to do this stuff if you're new to tanking or, if you have a pug tank. So don't be telling your pug tank, do these strategies. A lot of tanks are not comfortable doing big pulls like this, and that's fine. But that's also one of the reasons why dungeon leveling is very hit or miss. If you have tanks doing 2 mobs at a time, it can be really, really, really slow. And that's why I also like playing as a tank, especially while leveling up. I mean, I like tanking no matter what, but I especially love tanking in dungeons because I can do really, really fast pulls. I direct the flow of the dungeon, and that usually makes it so I can direct the speed of the dungeon as well. So, I probably edited that out, but what just happened was everybody was dilly-dallying around, and I went ahead and pulled the boss, like, not even insanely fast, at a relatively normal pace, and the other people who weren't paying attention fell behind and got locked out of the room, and then we wiped because the healer got locked out of the room. And I'm going to be completely honest, this is the reason why I do not enjoy dungeon leveling. So, I'm doing this because a lot of people have asked, but if you want my honest opinion on dungeon leveling, you shouldn't do it, unless you have friends. You know, if I'm doing dungeon leveling and I have a bunch of friends who are, you know, also there to level at like a fast pace, sure. I'm not trying to call out this healer, you know, Menalala Azralan, you know, he's probably a new player, and he probably didn't realize that he'd get locked out. But at the same time, I'm trying to go fast. I'm not even speedrunning right now. I just want to go fast because I don't want to be in this dungeon. I don't want to be here. So, the longer that I spend in this dungeon, the less time I spend having fun. I actually enjoy quests more than this, as much as that might surprise people. So, I'm trying to go at a decently fast pace, and if you have people who are just not paying attention and just fall behind and fuck you over, then it ends up taking even longer. So, that's just one of those things. Like, how was I supposed to know that my healer just wouldn't be in the room? I can't. It's pure RNG. It's luck of the draw. When you queue up for the dungeon, that's what happens. And, you know, like, it's one thing to not have a rare spawn. So, let's say that I'm doing a speedrun and a rare is not up. You know, it's happened. Lost Gilnean War Dog doesn't spawn. It's happened twice. And I get frustrated, but there's nothing I can really do besides be like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. Like, it sucks, but it's life, right? Somebody else got the tag, oh well. You know, I did everything I could to set up, like, whatever time I usually, you know, wake up early and whatnot. If it's not up, that's really all there is. Imagine doing this as a speedrun. Imagine trying to go fast to level efficiently in a form of content like this. And, you know, I can't be too mad at, like, this healer over here, because, you know, it's not his fault. He's probably a new player. But if I lost a speedrun because this guy made a mistake, I mean, I wouldn't really be able to be mad at him. It's my own fault that I queued up for the dungeon. But imagine how tilting that would be. I mean, anybody would get upset of, oh, wow, I was on like a world record pace and then I lost the speedrun because when doing a random dungeon, I had a healer who just AFK'd instead of running into the boss room. That would just be the most frustrating thing in the entire world. And then you also have guys like this who run ahead and say, ignore them and come to the elevator, which that's great and all, but in case you haven't noticed, we have a healer who doesn't know the dungeon. So as a tank, it's my goal, or duty, I suppose, to guide everybody through. So I could go full speed ahead and, yeah, just run to the elevator. But as we have already learned on the first boss, this healer does not know how to go fast. I guarantee you, wow, that hits really hard. But yeah, I guarantee you, if I ran ahead to that elevator, the healer would get stuck behind. Like, where's the tank going? Guess I better solo these mobs as a discipline priest. You know, it's just, you don't know. Like, if I'm in a group with my 5 friends, I could do what this guy did. I could say, ignore the mobs and run to the elevator. Sure. But I'm not in a group with my 5 friends. Or 4 friends, I guess. Now, I will say, I've asked speedrun.com a bit about adding a group leveling category, so to speak. Like a specifically category that's designed for this is to be done with like 4 other friends. You all start at the same time. It starts when, you know, the first person logs into the game, and it ends when the last person hits level 50. Something like that. And I think that could be an interesting category. Obviously, it's really hard to set up, though, because I'll be honest, I know approximately 0 people, like actual friends of mine, who would be interested in doing that speedrun. And, you know, I'm sure some people in the comments might say something like, oh, well, I'd be interested. And it's like, you know, obviously, sure, I'm sure that you could find 5 people. But if you're going to do something seriously like that, it would require everybody to have aligned schedules. It would require everybody to be on the same page in terms of how fast they're going to go. Everybody would need to have all the consumables. It's a lot. And that's the main issue with any sort of group content. It requires everybody to be right there on the same exact skill level. Dungeons are no exception, whether you're doing them with friends or especially if you're doing them with random people. Also, I know some people like to ignore this thing. You can, but it takes 2 seconds to just mash that button and they all die. So really, at the end of the day, when it comes to leveling, anything that you can do as a group, there is usually a faster alternative that you can just do solo. And in a perfect world, yes, it is possible that, like, if 5 people were mimicking the exact same thing, then, yeah, you could do something efficiently. But there's a reason why mythic raiding is difficult. You know, like, I've had mythic bosses, for instance, where I learned the fight in literally 5 pulls, and it takes us 80 pulls to kill the boss. Now, is that because, everybody else in my raid is dumb? No. It's because everybody else has, like, different responsibilities and different learning curves, and a good player might just get really hung up on this one mechanic, and that, in particular, happens to be difficult for them. And obviously there's varying degrees of skill, so, you know, not everybody in Method, or just Method, I keep saying Method just because it's, you know, historically my favorite, like, word to use for, like, a top-end build. So let's say everybody in Limits. They're all good players, but I guarantee you that if you really got down to the nitty-gritty, there are better players in Limit than, like, other players in Limit. You know, some people are, overall, probably more technically skilled. And the same thing applies for, you know, leveling. You may have a friend who's, like, really fast at leveling, but, you know, maybe you're even faster than your friend. And maybe when you group up with your friend, you find that even though your friend is pretty fast, he ends up just slowing you down. And that's the thing. You know, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Unless you have 4 other people that are as fast as you for leveling, you're just not going to be having a more efficient time doing this. You just really won't. It's unfortunate. I'd say maybe the one exception to the rule is the whole level 10 to 20 dungeons. Maybe if you do BC dungeons, because a lot of the early ones are very easy, from level 10 to 20, yeah, those ones are just so face roll easy that maybe you could do them without a group. But I don't even feel like really testing that right now. You know, here's the thing, right? This dungeon has been... it's probably going to end up being about, like, what, 13 minutes long by the time I'm completely done with it and this boss dies. And I've barely gotten any experience since I started. The end of completion bonus is going to shoot me up to here, and the quest will maybe get me to have been a full level. Okay, that actually was a lot more than I expected. Huh. Oh yeah, because of all my XP modifiers. So I guess we'll see. We'll see what this gives. Oh, there's only 2 quests. So even then, because there were only 2 quests, I barely got 1 level. I barely got 1 level in 13 minutes. I don't know. Like, that's the thing. For the record, these are way faster than doing anything in WoD, Legion, BFA, just because those have no quests, so they take so much longer. Now, I can try... Let's show a BC dungeon. I've been talking a lot about BC dungeons. Actually, real quick, you know, I've played Takasa a good bit. Now, I'm going to be honest. Right now, I'm not having fun at all. I hate to say that. I went in here expecting to at least somewhat enjoy the dungeon leveling. I can't. It's not fun. It's not really fun waiting for 4 other random people who are much slower than you to go through. I mean, I already get frustrated with Mythic Plus sometimes, but with Mythic Plus, there's at least, you know, a vetting process when you're forming the group. With Random Dungeon Finder, there's just a lot of people. And, you know, you can see, I'm not mad at these people. I'm not yelling at them. I haven't said anything in chat. In fact, all I did was kind of, you know, make a jab at myself for fucking up Alza and the Wild Shaper. But that doesn't mean that I enjoy it. It doesn't mean that I enjoy having to go in here and effectively carry 4 people who are just much lower geared and, you know, experienced. It's just, ugh, it's frustrating. It's slow. And as you know, I like going fast. I like optimization, and this is just not optimized. Now, I'm not enjoying this, but what I do want to show, because I have talked about it, and I do want to experiment with it, is what it would be like on a fresh character. So, Prot Pally, for the record, is like one of the best dungeon leveling tanks. As you can see, me playing Prot Warrior kind of sucks. There's a reason why it was the last tank I got around to leveling, and it's probably going to be the last tank that I level in Shadowlands, and I might have mentioned this in previous videos, I might have not, but I plan on having at least 2 of every single tank, except Blood DK and Prot Warrior. Blood DK is fine as a tank, it's good, I just don't like it. I have absolutely no enjoyment in modern Blood DK. I went on a long rant about my problems with their design in a previous video. And Warrior, Warrior's not good, for the record. It's probably one of the worst tanks at the moment, and it's also just not fun. I find it exceptionally boring. And let's see here, pick protection. So Warrior just feels like ass. I'm going to level the 1 at some points. We'll see if I end up doing something else with this, or if I just level it, like, off record, just to get it over with. Alright, so I've got all my stuff set up, I have my mounts, I have all my abilities, and if you notice here, I've just freshly created this character. I mean, y'all saw me do it. I have completely unenchanted heirlooms. I'm too lazy to even mail it over from that character. I just want to showcase this, and I want to show that it's still really fast, even with pug groups. So here I'm going to pick Portal to Outland. This is probably the only thing I recommend doing. These 4 dungeons here up until maybe 15. Now, it's definitely worth it until 15. I've tested all 4 of these dungeons. The only thing that might be worth it, that is like kind of hard to say, so I'll close my splits there, is doing these dungeons up until 20. So there are mostly good dungeons after 15, but I believe there was one. Oh yeah, it was Escape from Durnhold. That one, if you get, yeah, it's a bit RNG, because that one takes a while, unlike the others. But every single other early BC dungeon, which is anything before 20, is very, very fast. So you can reliably, I would say, do them without too much RNG. I will say, I hope I get Blood Furnace, because there's a really hilarious bug that I noticed that might fuck you up if you get it in a pug. So we'll have to see if I'm able to show that off. And then obviously you get situations like this, right, where full 30-second queue and somebody just doesn't take it. So one thing I should say, if you're going to be doing this, oh, this is either Ramparts or Blood Furnace. Fingers crossed for, oh well, Ramparts is still good. I just wanted to showcase Blood Furnace, and I don't know if I really want to do another one after this. But yeah, so I recommend doing quests while you're waiting in queue. Seems obvious, but that's the thing. Especially if you don't have a tank, or you aren't like playing a tank and you're doing this solo. It's going to save you a lot of time, not just sitting there and waiting for the queue. You know, maybe you don't care. And for the record, one of the main reasons that I love Prot Pally in low-level dungeons is for stuff like that. I mean, I pretty much was dead, and then I lay on hands myself. And you can do that on a lot of stuff. The main issue, I mean, I don't want to get into a tanking rant, but tanks in dungeons, you'll notice that generally speaking, unless one just has so much more survivability and damage than the others, like BOD, Prot Warrior, the thing that separates a good dungeon tank from a bad dungeon tank is basically their self-sustainability. How long can they stay like on their own without having to rely on a healer? For the most part, this is true for Mythic Plus, and it's definitely true for low-leveling dungeons, especially if you're not playing with friends. So if I'm not playing with friends, my biggest concern is, am I going to get saved by the healer, or am I going to fall over dead? And as a Prot Warrior, I am completely at the mercy of the healer. There is nothing I can do. It is just, are they going to save me, or are they going to let me die? Now, well, I will say, I do want to cover stuff like this in more detail, that being dungeon leveling. I just don't really have the time right now. So, as I said, you know, at the start of the video, which, you know, I meant to do in the actual recording, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to have to go back and do in post, so you probably all listen to that. I'm going to be streaming this Friday, and I'm going to be doing whatever Alliance speedrun you all want to see. And the thing about that is, streaming, one of the nice benefits for it is I won't have to do a lot of video editing, because it's just, I pop in there. Maybe I'll do a stream highlights or something, I don't know. But either way, it's very easy for me to do it. It's like not super time consuming. It took me a while to edit that last Alliance video just because it takes so long to like encode and process. And you know, Adobe Premiere has been giving me a real hard time, especially with like higher quality videos and stuff. Like it just takes a while to load the playback and whatnot. So that's just one of those things. Right now we have about a week and a half until Shadowlands comes out. And I have a lot of stuff that I need to do. So I want to still make, you know, the Demon Hunter speedrun and the Alliance speedrun. I'm going to be doing those on stream, partially because it's going to make my life a lot easier because I won't have to do, obviously, you know, video editing in Premiere. And on top of that, there are some minor things, you know, leading up to Shadowlands that I still need to do. For instance, I still need to update my spreadsheet. I've talked about that before, but I haven't actually done that yet. I'm waiting until next week to do that, but that's going to take me a lot of time. So, I don't know, that's a lot of time that I won't have to do leveling stuff and make videos. And then on top of that, I'm probably going to make a video about my spreadsheet. I don't know how long that's going to be. It might be like an off-the-cuff thing, just talking about the spreadsheet itself, but that's going to take time. So basically, oh yeah, and on top of that, by the way, I mentioned in a previous video, I might have edited it out, I don't know. I have 2 school projects, you know, for midterms and whatnot. So 2 school projects, generic stuff that of course everybody's doing in preparation for Shadowlands, because, you know, we all have to do that. And also a few other videos, streams, and whatnot that I've already planned. And then, to top all of that off, as I've mentioned, I do plan on trying to level fast in Shadowlands, and while I have played the beta, you guys know that I like to be optimized. And I haven't really had time to optimize the Shadowlands leveling experience, because they keep changing it. So I have really had no time to just sit down and try out Shadowlands leveling. Like, honestly, I did it one time, and it was when, like, the XP values were completely scuffed. Everything was taking absolutely forever, and I forgot to set my timer, but, you know, just, I don't know, it's been like 5 minutes or something like that. Crap. Anyways, so, I have really had no time to sit down and test Shadowlands leveling. And I want to make sure that I have a very well-refined route and a good bit of practice before, you know, the launch day, for 2 reasons. First of all, I want it to be an enjoyable viewing experience for you guys. Like, I don't want you guys to show up, like, on Shadowlands launch and see me just, like, fumbling around, having no idea what I'm doing. Obviously, yeah, new expansion, but I do have beta. I can do better. So I'm going to try to do better than just fumbling around. And on top of that, I do want to get a fast time. I've said it before, I'm not going for world record, partially because, as you know, I mentioned earlier, in most cases, going solo, while it is fast in general, in theory, if you have 4 other people or so playing at the exact same level as you, yeah, it's in theory faster. And for 99.99% of the World of Warcraft population, that's just unrealistic, which is why, like I said, I like to level solo. But if you're a player in limited method, well, it just so happens that you have a guild full of people who are pretty much exactly as good as you. So those people can have, like, leveling groups of insanely good players, and yeah, at that point it is going to be faster. But for me, you know, not to diss my friends, I'm not saying they're bad players, but my friends are nowhere near as invested in all of this, like, speed leveling stuff and efficiency as I am. That is 100% just a thing that I do that my friends are like, yeah, cool. And it's just not something they care about, even if they find it interesting to watch on YouTube. So I'm going to be leveling solo, which means I'm inherently going to be at a disadvantage compared to, like, all of the players in the top guilds. So I stand really 0 chance at actually getting a world first time. But I do stand a reasonably good chance at getting a very, very fast time, especially for my server, which is the thing I care about the most, I guess. I just want to have a character at max level really fast so I can start doing endgame content. And as you can see here, basically, yeah, 2.5 levels, and that took honestly, I think less than 10 minutes. So infinitely faster than everything I just showed. And I'll do one more, just because I still have a few things I want to talk about, and I guess it's good to show, now that we've ruled out some of the bad ones, we showed that classic dungeons are slow, and we've showed that Wrath dungeons, actually, I mean, I didn't do a Wrath dungeon, but I gave an example of going through the list, how, like, it's just way too random, and then we showed Mop dungeons, they're also just really not fast. So let's do another BC dungeon. Alright, so I've basically edited out the last, I don't even know, like 30 minutes of this video. Basically, I got kind of frustrated. I tried to do another dungeon on my paladin, and they were already at the last boss, so, you know, it was just, there was no footage to have there. And then I went on to my warrior to see if I could queue for something else, and, well, yeah, the run was extremely scuffed. I got about 10 minutes in, and you just had people pulling extra packs. The healer had no idea what he was doing. He would die to stuff that I couldn't even see, and then I would die, and I honestly just got way too frustrated. I had to actually walk away for a bit, and that's one of the main issues with this. I've said this, honestly, at this point, probably, depending on how much I edit it, multiple times in this video. You might like dungeon leveling. I do not. I do not find this fun. I do not find it fun having to wrangle a group of 4 people. It's such a pain. It is such a pain. So, I have decided to change things up. If you notice here, I am on a level 45 character. And this character is actually one of my Legion characters. So I have here a ton of gear that, you know, you might recognize if you rated in Legion. I have my 2 legendaries. Obviously, I have some stuff from, like, the BFA intro, which I did, and then, you know, got bored. So I have all of this, like, all of these items. I have even Jeweled Signet of Belandris. A lot of things from back in Legion. So this was my main bear back in Legion. And now, I'm going to show one more thing before I end the video. And hopefully I'll be able to cover all of the remaining topics that I was in the middle of and lost, because I'm not going to include any of the footage of the really scuffed run. So we're going to show a random Cataclysm dungeon. So here, you can see if I go under specific dungeons, what are my options? Blackrock Caverns, Grim Batol, Halls of Origination, Lost City of the Tolvir, Stone Core, Vortex Pinnacle, Throne of the Tides. Some of these are better than others. So, we'll test it. We'll test one, Shot in the Dark, see how it goes. Honestly, I probably have, like, full rested experience for the next 5 levels, because this character has been basically inactive for, like, 2.5 years. So, yeah, this is actually my Emerald Dream character. I mentioned before I played on Emerald Dream, this was my character on Emerald Dream. And it's nice because since I'm playing Guardian Druid, it's something that I'm already quite familiar with. I really hate Prot Warrior with a passion. I'm honestly, today's video, the recording of it, has made me debate on if I even want to, like, play a warrior going into Shadowlands at all. So I was only going to level 1 as an alt, as I've mentioned. But I might just say fuck it and just not even play one, just because that's how much I absolutely despise them. Yeah, see, I have full rested experience for the next level. I guess that's going to make this data kind of skewed, but at least you can see how fast it goes. You know, add 30 seconds to that kind of whatever. Swap around. Some of my keybinds are obviously a bit different. It's been a while since I played this. Arrow here, and pull the boss. Yeah, so I do feel bad. I know a few people really, really wanted to see a warrior run. I'm going to be honest, warrior is... I just don't enjoy it. Like, Arms Warrior I don't hate, but Arms Warrior is just so bad to level. Like, I enjoy Arms Warrior at max level, and I hate Arms Warrior while leveling, so it's just problematic, right? Like, if I was going to play a Warrior spec, it would be Arms, but I don't want to level as Arms. We'll see, maybe. You're definitely not going to see me do it before Shadowlands. As I've said, I have way too much stuff on my plate already. Which segues into my next point, which is to go back to what I was talking about. I have a lot of testing to do on Shadowlands beta. I am probably going to do it all, like, off the record. So, I've obviously recorded all of my leveling speedruns. I don't really think it would be interesting to see me do the Shadowlands testing. Because, you know, I know some people are going to say, oh, no, do it. At this point, it's going to be out in, like, a week or two anyway. I'm definitely not going to show it. Because you'll be able to see me stream Shadowlands, and you'll be able to then see me level multiple characters in Shadowlands, and at that point, my route's going to be refined. I've done the quests, a dry run of it, once. It's not going to be really interesting to see me do science, basically, on what the fastest thing is. So, I'm going to have to do, basically, a lot of off-stream, video recording, testing of the Shadowlands zones over the next week in between the time when I'm doing my actual streams and actual videos and, you know, obviously school projects. So that's just a lot of stuff that I need to do. There's only so much time in every single day. I've been trying to schedule my time accordingly, but it's, you know, obviously not the easiest thing in the world. So that's why I partially wanted to do this. I thought about making an in-detail guide on dungeon leveling, but for starters, I don't enjoy it. It's just, in my opinion, not very fun. If I ever do one in the future, I might do it with friends, and I actually did try doing it with friends, and then most of them either, like, showed up late, or showed up drunk, or... I'm not even, like, upset with them, by the way. Like, they were having fun with it, but it just ended up being kind of a shit show. Like, it was a fun time, but we basically got, like, 2 dungeons done in, like, 2 hours, just because we were always waiting on some guy to do one thing, to fix his transmog. You know, at one point, my cousin forgot, like, how to tame a hunter pet, and then he ended up going all the way to the south of Duratar. You know, that's the issue. When you level with other people, it's inherently going to slow you down unless they happen to be miraculously, like, the same speed as you or faster, and that's just not a reality. Like, my cousin's not a bad player, but goddamn did he act like it when he could not find a hunter pet for a solid 20 minutes. That was just frustrating. And that's the thing, that's time that you're not questing. That's time when you could just be doing solo questing, solo dungeoning, anything. And yeah, it's, I don't know. It also doesn't really make for great video content. Like, as funny as it wasn't something that, like, you know, I think would really make for a good YouTube video. Can I soothe in bear form? I can. Huh, cool. So maybe in the future, when, you know, Shadowlands is settled down, I've already floated some ideas of things that I'm going to do in the future. Like, obviously, you know, a lot of people have given me ideas on stuff to do videos on. Right now, I'm really doing videos on the things that I feel I need to do videos on before Shadowlands comes out. This, honestly, is something that I probably would have never done because, you know, it's a highly requested topic, but it is, as I've said, something I don't really enjoy. So this is probably going to be the last dungeon leveling video, or I guess requested video of, like, content. You know, obviously, if you guys want me to play a class, with the exception of Rogue, I've said that, let me know. But in terms of content that I don't really enjoy, you know, I'm not going to be doing that. Some people have also said, oh, you could do, like, glory achievement guides or whatnot. I don't really enjoy doing glory achievement guides. That's just not going to be content that you're going to find on this channel. And I guess another thing that some people have suggested that I do is cover the pre-patch events. I actually considered it, and then I just decided no, because, well, for starters, I don't really like the pre-patch events. I guess I haven't really talked about it, because there's just not too much to talk about. But the pre-patch event is bad. There's, like, no content, really. It's extremely boring, and I haven't really been enjoying it at all. I basically did a bit of farming for Scourge Stones, and I found, like, a really optimal route on day one that since then, you know, every single YouTuber and their mother has found, so, like, you know, it's not like there's any point in making a video about that. And also, I did, like, a bunch of the rare mobs, but, I mean, the rare mobs are just so scheduled. You know, there's nothing interesting to them. You know, as much as I love going for classic rare mobs, like, these rare mobs are really just set time bosses. It's basically like loot vending machines every 20 minutes, and I don't know, that's just not really fun for me. I don't really think there's anything interesting I could do. I could make the same exact guide that a million people have made. You know, like all those YouTubers that are like, "What's up, guys? Welcome to another video about the Shadowlands pre-patch. You know, here's some information that I copied off Wowhead, and here's some information that you literally would have to be a complete idiot to not figure out on your own. And I hope you guys enjoyed the guide, and you know, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and you know, hit that bell if you really want to see more content like this." Which, you know, of course, I'm sure you guys would love to see more content like that. Riveting stuff, I know. So yeah, I'm not going to do shit like that. I'm going to do basically content that I think is informative and that I don't really think is widely covered, because I want you guys to be able to watch a video and at least learn something. You know, you may know a lot of stuff that I cover in my video, but I don't want people to feel like they walked away from my video like, "Oh, well, that was useless. I learned absolutely nothing off that." So I'm not going to cover all the generic clickbaity bullcrap that everybody else is. Which means I'm going to focus more on, I guess, developing information that I can use to make good content when Shadowlands does come out. Because there's going to be a lot of stuff to cover. I'm probably not going to cover all of it, but I will cover the stuff that I think isn't covered enough that you guys would probably want to know. So that's going to be consuming a lot of my time over the next 2 weeks. Maybe I'll do another, like right now, obviously I have the 2 streams planned. So Friday, 7 p.m. EST is the Alliance one, and then Saturday, 7 p.m. EST is going to be the Demon Hunter one. I might do 1 or 2 more impromptu streams, like the following week. I don't know. It really just depends on if I have something that I think I want to stream. Because I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to be, I don't know, leveling any more characters after that. My Demon Hunter might be the last character that I level in pre-patch, because I just have a lot of other stuff that I need to work on. We'll have to see. Alright, so that actually was not terrible. Let's hand this in. I mean, it was 10 minutes. Obviously, I am level 46, so experience is much harder to get. I still just don't feel like that was fast. Like, that was fast for a dungeon. You know, getting about, like, that's the equivalent of probably, like, 2.5 levels at low levels. I guess that's probably efficient, but I also had rested XP, so actually, no, it's not. It's probably more like 1 3/4 levels per 10 minutes-ish. Yeah, let's go with that. That's not insanely efficient, but it's also not that bad. I don't know. You can do better, is all I'm trying to say. So really, just to recap, I don't enjoy dungeon leveling. There's a reason I don't do it, so I've seen a bunch of people asking why I don't mix dungeons in. I'll probably edit in enough clips to show how miserable this entire past 2 hours has been recording this video. It's just not fun for me. I really don't enjoy it. I only kind of enjoy dungeon leveling with friends, and I enjoy it in the sense that it's fun to do stuff with friends. I don't care what I'm doing with my friends, I'm still going to have fun, but I'd actually much more enjoy, like, literally anything else but doing dungeons with friends. Because dungeons are not fun, in my opinion. Low-level dungeons, I should say. It's just boring, repetitive garbage. And it, generally speaking, is not efficient. If you are going to do dungeons, I would say only do it at the start of your leveling run. And only do, like, BC and maybe Wrath. Mop just isn't fast enough. Kata isn't fast enough. I would say those two are passable. And classic dungeons are very hit or miss. Classic dungeons, you're either going to get one that's really fast or you're going to get one that's really slow. So if you want to do 10 to 20 with Wrath or BC dungeons, that is probably the only time when I'd say it's, like, acceptable. After that, no matter what expansion you're in, it just reaches a fucking halt. It grinds to a halt, I should say. It's just, not fun, not good, not efficient. The only advantage to potentially doing the first 10 levels in a dungeon that I could see is maybe you can cut out some of the dead stuff at the end. So, you know, do BC Wrath dungeons from 10 to 20, and then, I don't know, do Silverpine Hillsbrad and Gorgorons, and maybe you can cut out Talador and Spires. Maybe, I don't even know. It might not even be enough. You might still have to do some of that. But maybe. Who knows? But really, that's it. I'm not obviously going to make a guide for this. I just don't think it's interesting. It's one of those things where if you're already going to do something inefficient, you don't need a guide on how to be inefficient, right? Like, if you're doing something for fun, then do it for fun. Like, either do something the most efficient way or do something the way that for you is the most fun, personally. But I can't make a guide on how to be the most efficient at an inefficient thing. I don't know, it's just, it kind of defeats the purpose, right? So I'm not going to make a dungeon leveling guide. Consider this your basically dungeon leveling-esque guide. And, yeah, just keep in mind that it's not good. I'm not even going to add the stuff about BC and Wrath to the guide because I don't recommend people do it. But if you are like an absolute dungeon fiend and you love doing BC dungeons, well, there you go. My limited testing shows that they're probably not too terrible. Those two expansions. I mean, I didn't even test Wrath, but like, I know those dungeons, and yeah. Whatever. That's it. I'm sorry because I clearly wasn't enjoying myself as much in this video, but I hope that you still managed to find it somewhat informative. And once again, if you are watching this relatively early, I am going to be streaming the next 2 days after this is uploaded, so Friday at 7 p.m. and Saturday at 7 p.m., both Eastern Server Time, US. So yeah, it would be awesome to have more people there, and thanks for watching.